आधे बाउल दही में 4 चम्मच MDH चटनी पुदीना मसाला डाला, स्टर करो, पुदीना चटनी तैयार। MDH चटनी पुदीना मसाला।
From the Republic Media Network headquarters, it's time for Arnab Goswami on the debate. Arnab Goswami on the debate.
On the show tonight, Republic, the only channel to have accessed critical documents to question the DGCA. An advisory issued 2 months prior has finally compelled the DGCA to issue a response. At 9 lapses after lapses, no accountability whatsoever, but the international media did not waste a minute to question the pilots of the AI-171 crash. The big story is, who leaked the report from New Delhi to the world? Now, over the weekend, the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau, or the AIIB, of India released a preliminary report on the accident involving Air India's Boeing 787-8 aircraft in Ahmedabad on the 12th of June. But the sequence of events was quite interesting, with open, deliberate and shady leaks in the global media emerging hours before the report was released, incidentally blaming Indian pilots. So what this means is that a report was not even given to the members of parliament here, but full details of the report were given to publishing houses, magazines, newspapers in New York and Cincinnati. And sitting in America, they were abusing Indian pilots, saying they don't know how to fly and they caused the crash. Now, even the AIIB gave a report indicating, but not specifying, that maybe there was some pilot error. In the natural scheme of things, it's so surprising. The politicians heartily welcomed the AIIB report, the preliminary report. As if on sequence after that, the Air India CEO gave himself and his airline a clean chit, saying that the report found no mechanical or maintenance issues with the aircraft or engines. But just when they thought it was all over, it had all been managed, settled, sorted out, handled, as they say, handled. Some people died, but we've handled it. The Pilots Association has come out very strongly against an attempt to blame the pilots without proper facts. The ICPA said the preliminary information is quote-unquote reckless and unfounded, and also added that it was irresponsible and deeply insensitive. The ALPA, another top pilots association, suggested quote-unquote bias towards pilot error in this report, which means they're somehow trying to blame the pilots. Naturally, then Boeing gets away, Air India gets away, DGCA gets away, everyone gets away, and the pilots are no more. They can't defend themselves. And now, ladies and gentlemen, just before these authorities were nearing the completion of a horrible victory lap, a notice from the UK Civil Aviation Authority has come to light, which we have a copy of here at Republic. Ladies and gentlemen, exhibit number 1. About potential concerns about the fuel shutoff valves on Boeing flights. Yes, ladies and gentlemen. The UK notice quotes the Federal Aviation Authority of the US about a potentially unsafe situation of fuel cutoff valves installed on the following Boeing aircraft that are B737, 757, 767, 777 and 787 aircraft of the make that crashed. This safety notice by the Civil Aviation Authority of the United Kingdom is dated the 15th of May 2025. That is just 28 days before the Air India 171 crash. And it reads, the FAA has issued an airworthiness directive addressing a potentially unsafe situation affecting fuel shutoff valves installed on the following Boeing aircraft: Boeing 737, 757, 767, 777, which require a test and or inspection, and of the fuel shutoff valve actuators on the Boeing 787, which require replacement, test and or inspection. This notice further directed daily checks in accordance with the relevant airworthiness directive to be performed by operatives or engineering or flight crew. Which means there was a major problem on these kind of Boeing planes, which is why when British Airways or any British airline flying these Boeing planes was told, follow abundant caution, go through this pro forma, go through a series of daily checks. Did DGCA do that? No. Did Air India do that? I do not think so. So with the greatest of respect, what do those MPs know? And why are some Indian politicians so horribly over-keen to somehow give DGCA and Air India a clean chit? Now, ladies and gentlemen, both the DGCA, Air India, and the politicians in the parliamentary committee thought it was all over. Matter has been handled. Blame has been indirectly put on the pilots. Suspicion has been put in the minds of people that, these pilots make mistakes. That's why there are crashes. Came the big question. If the UK regulators wanted daily checks in accordance with the airworthiness directive, what were the Indian regulators doing? The question here to ask is, would the problems on the British 787s not apply to any 787 of Air India or any airline flying the 787 based in India? If there were some daily mandatory checks mandated by the UK civil aviation authorities, what was our great DGCA doing? Was it even aware of the safety notice of the UK Civil Aviation Authority? There are questions that need clear answers, because the UK Civil Aviation Authority was not alone in raising concerns on fuel shutoff valves. In December of 2018, the Federal Aviation Authority, the Federal Aviation Administration of the United States, had released a special airworthiness information bulletin. There it is, in which they specifically warned owners and operators of various Boeing aircraft, including the Boeing 787 models, of the potential for disengagement of the fuel control switch locking feature. The FAA has raised grave concerns. They had said, if the locking feature is disengaged, the switch can be moved between the two positions without lifting the switch during transition, and the switch would be exposed to the potential of inadvertent operation. Inadvertent operation of the switch could result in an unintended consequence, such as an in-flight engine shutdown, which is exactly what has happened in the case of AI-171. But you see, the politicians say, no. I think the pilots are responsible. It's so easy. Blame it on a dead pilot and get away in every regulatory and corporate sense. Had it not been for Republic, ladies and gentlemen, this is the story which had been sold to everybody. But we are unrelenting in our investigation. And we are right. The irony here is that on page 6 of the AI-171 crash report, the AAIB, which has investigated this quote-unquote accident, itself refers to this FAA directive. But guess what, ladies and gentlemen? 8 years since this Federal Aviation Administration directive, it seems the DGCA had, till a little while back, not taken any serious note. It is because, and this is unbelievable, today in the evening at around 5:30 p.m., the DGCA issued an order demanding mandatory modifications in the Boeing aircraft, including 787, in alignment with the FAA directive of 2018. Now I want to ask the Civil Aviation Minister and this government that had they acted in 2018, would the crash have happened? Had they understood the dangers in 2018, would the crash have happened? And since all these facts are in the public domain, why does the government of India not say that it is wrong to be indirectly trying to blame Indian pilots? Now that the facts are out, Republic is investigating, and we will. Now the DGCA is requesting airlines to inspect affected aircraft. But when the report of the AAIB came on the 12th, the FAA directed in 2018, what made the DGCA wake up today? Was it the questionnaire that Republic sent to the DGCA this afternoon at 12:30 p.m. demanding answers? You see, viewers, 12:30 p.m. we expose the DGCA, we send them a mail. 5:30 p.m. they do something they have not done for the last 8 years. I have to say nothing else. 12:30 this afternoon, we send them a mail. They know they are totally exposed now. Republic is going to expose them. 5:30 p.m. within 5 hours, they do something they have not done for 8 years. We asked the DGCA this afternoon, why did it not mandate inspections or corrective actions for Indian operators following the 2018 FAA directive, which highlighted potential disengagement of the fuel control switch locking feature on Boeing aircraft, including the Boeing 7878. We asked the DGCA, given the AAIB's finding that the fuel control switches on VT A and B, this particular plane, transitioned to cutoff, and pilots asking each other on who did it, did the DGCA ever suspect a design or maintenance issue in the fuel control system, potentially linked to the issues flagged on the 2018 FAA SAP case? After such laser-focused questions which we send them today, the DGCA was forced to finally issue a directive on fuel valves. It is an admission of their guilt, ladies and gentlemen, but it is too late. Too late. Ask yourself this. If the British regulators think that British lives or people traveling on British Airlines, their lives should not be compromised, and hence there should be a different kind of check, what were the Indian regulators doing? Sleeping. And now that I have exposed all this, will the Civil Aviation Minister be sacked? No, because he's from the TDP, they can't touch him. You see, politics becomes important then. Where is the actual accountability? Because these new revelations clearly prove that there has been a rush to identify the cause of the crash as pilot error, which is fundamentally wrong and unethical. While problems of the fuel shutoff valves are based possibly on technical issues and not just human factors. When the FAA says that there can be quote-unquote inadvertent operation that could result in unintended consequences, unquote, which means in simple parlance a crash. When the UK Civil Aviation Authority says fuel shutoff valve actuators on the Boeing 787 require replacement test and/or inspection, did the AAIB jump the gun? When it snuck in the following remarks in the second last sentence of its 15-page report, when it said, at this stage of investigation, there are no recommended actions to Boeing 787-8 or GE NX-18 engine operators and manufacturers. What is the need for saying all this? Are they worried that the stock price of Boeing is going to crash? Why do they need to give Boeing a clean chit? Why does a so-called accident investigator need to be in such a desperation to give Boeing a clean chit? Think about it. It makes no sense to me. And it is because of the Republic investigation of the fact that I am happy to say today the AAIB's entire theory has just gone up in smoke, ladies and gentlemen. You don't need these politicians to sit around and say, oh, AAIB, well done, we're so proud of you. We've never seen a report so beautifully done, so professionally done, so well done, that it gives Boeing a complete clean chit. And I request Indian MPs to not be interested in whether Boeing is given a clean chit. The story, the documents that we have are the real story. Do Indian lives matter? Why did it take a Republic Media Network email at 12:30 to get DGCA to wake up in 5 hours for what it did not do in 8 days? And had they done what they needed to do, would the crash have happened? Would the crash have happened? The nation needs to know. The nation will know. And ladies and gentlemen, tonight on this important development, I will open the phone lines. Shawan Sen is with us this evening. Shawan is getting lined up and mic'd up. It's a big expose. What am I saying tonight? I am saying, stop lying to the people of India that the pilots are responsible. You want to give Boeing a clean sheet? Give. Say we want to give Boeing a clean sheet. You want to give DGCA a clean sheet? Give. Say we want to give DGCA a clean sheet. You want to give Air India a clean sheet? Say give. Give Air India a clean sheet, Boeing a clean sheet, DGCA a clean sheet. But explain to me why something that should have been done in 2018 was not done till now. And why what the UK authorities put out on 15th of May 2018 in this notice, 27 days before the crash, was not done by the DGCA and therefore not done presumably by Air India. That's the question. Now we have some guests with us tonight. Senior Captain Saurabh Bhatnagar is current Senior Commander of Air India Express. We also have with us Group Captain Anant Mathur, Test Pilot, former IAF officer. But I would like to go to Shawan Sen first, and we go to Harsha also in a bit. So Shawan, has DGCA told you yet? Have they given you a formal reply to your 12-point, 13-point letter today? What are they saying?
Well, in fact, this afternoon around 12:30 is when we had sent 15 questions. Questions pertaining to the FAA advisory back in 2018 and the UK safety advisory that was issued on 15th May 2025. Interestingly, there was no response that came in. It was around 5:30 this evening when a directive was actually issued referring to the same very 2018 FAA directive. They make no mention of the UK safety advisory. In fact, they have now given their airliners date till about 21st of July by which they have to finish the inspection. And the inspection of what? It is the inspection of the locking feature of the fuel switch control. Let me also share a breaking news now coming in. Arnab, I can confirm that these checks that we are talking about was carried out by one airline this Saturday, and 50% of it was linked to the B787 aircraft. Rest of it, the B77 and the other fleets, their checks are still being carried out. All of this is happening post the probe report that came out. The probe report which makes a mention of the FAA advisory and the fact that Air India did not adhere to it. In fact, the same airline is now carrying out the safety checks starting from this Saturday. We do not know, as far as the other airliners are concerned, whether they are carrying out any safety checks or not. That is not known at this point in time. But this is what is happening right now. There was an attempt that was made to basically push the blame on the pilots, but this makes it very clear that the locking feature requires some amount of inspection. And in fact, the advisory also goes on to say that if needed, go on with a change or a replacement.
So Shawan, bottom line is that till, over the weekend, there was this attempt to somehow say that you cannot blame anyone but the pilots. They didn't openly say the pilots were to blame, but now they're in a mess. Has DGCA responded to you? You sent various questions to the DGCA. Has DGCA responded to you?
There's no official response from their side, but this directive is only after the 15 questions that we had set.
So basically DGCA realized we had exposed them.
I'm picking up
DGCA realized we had exposed them. We would go ahead with the story. We would expose how they had not acted for 8 years. So they suddenly acted at 5:30. Have they explained why they did not act so far?
There is absolutely no explanation. There is no explanation why they are waking up after 8 years. What I can confirm is the fact that there were multiple meetings that took place at the DGCA office today, and finally this directive has now been made public. But so far, I've also checked with certain airliners. They've said that they had not received any sort of advisory. In fact, the airlines also need to answer, because if you see, Etihad has already carried out the checks without any sort of an advisory that was given to them. So what stops the airlines here in India to carry out their checks on their own? Suo moto, they could have done that. I've checked with multiple other airlines, international airlines. Etihad has already put this out. Etihad is saying that they are carrying out checks as far as the fuel control switch locking mechanism is concerned. If Etihad could have, then why is it that the Indian airlines could not?
So, but more or less, I mean, everybody till now, viewers, I don't want to insinuate anything, but the MPs were very happy to give Air India a clean sheet, DGCA a clean sheet, Boeing a clean sheet. They were so happy to do that. I'll tell you something, Shravan. Inside that meeting of the MPs, they kept praising what a wonderful report. We've never seen a report like this. We should be proud that AIIB has done a report. Basically, there were one or two MPs particularly leading from the front and giving everybody a clean chit, right? And Boeing would have been very happy with the report as well. Air India would be happy with the report. It's basically an attempt to blame a dead pilot who cannot speak for himself. To say the pilot is so inexperienced or suicidal that he decides to cut off the switch. And after that, all kind of conspiracy theories can go on. Was the pilot suicidal? What was the psychological profile of the pilot? Let's get a psychologist in to examine a dead pilot. I mean, how can you do that? This is so unfair on the pilots. How are the pilot community responding, Shravan?
Well, in fact, the Pilot Association have already put out a statement saying that they've carried out this entire investigation with a presumption that the pilots are guilty. And that is the reason why they've sought for a meeting with the DGCA, because they're basically asking for the full transcript of the cockpit voice recording, because here we still do not know whether it was the captain that had basically asked the question as to who cut off and whether it was the co-pilot. That clarity hasn't really come in. Secondly, if you really look at the timeline, there are multiple questions that are now being asked as to what really happened after the question came in.
But one thing is clear, that the FAA had said that this plane, the Boeing plane, there are problems with this plane as far as the fuel control switch is concerned. And it had said that if the locking feature is disengaged, the switch can be moved between the two positions without lifting the switch during transition, and the switch would be exposed to the potential of inadvertent action. Inadvertent operation of the switch could result in an unintended consequence, such as an in-flight engine shutdown. Isn't this exactly like what has happened? Because why would a pilot who's facing catastrophe lie about not cutting off the switch? One pilot asked the other, did you cut off the switch? The pilot says, I did not. I did not. Which other way can the switch get cut off if this feature malfunctions in exactly the way the Federal Aviation Administration warned that it can? And to prevent which steps should have been taken by now, but the DGCA for 8 years did not take those steps. The Air India did not take these steps. Neither Air India or DGCA have the decency to come out and say, we did not take the steps. It is wrong to blame the pilot. It could be a technical fault. But on the other hand, this Campbell Wilson comes out and says, there's nothing technical. There's no technical fault. He came out and gave a statement today. What will he say now? He gave a statement today heroically saying, nothing wrong with the engine, nothing wrong technically. What will he say now, Shravan?
Well, in fact, that statement makes absolutely no mention as far as the pilots are concerned. Here, can the CEO deny the fact that the checks were basically carried out after the probe report came in? Can the Air India CEO deny the fact that other international airlines have actually followed the advisory, even if it was not mandatory? Why is it that they cannot confirm this on paper? In fact, there is a questionnaire that we have sent to Air India asking for a detailed response to whether at all they received any directive from DGCA, B, did they take any action based on the FAA advisory, because other airlines, other international airlines have done so, and suo motu, they could have done the same. There is no response. What is stopping the airline to come on record to tell us that whether at all they've received the directive, or for that matter, have they actually carried out any checks over the last few years?
Okay, we're going to open up the phone lines tonight, but before that, what do you think? Group Captain Saurabh Bhatnagar and Senior Captain Saurabh Bhatnagar and Group Captain Anant Mathur are with us tonight. So, Captain Bhatnagar, you know, till Sunday, the story was given out that there was something going on between the pilots. One pilot must be inexperienced, other must be experienced. One of them doesn't know how to fly a plane. He cuts off the fuel and the plane crashes. This is the theory that was done. And the politicians are all clapping and saying, well done, what a great report, how wonderful it is. And it was an attempt at closing up this whole controversy, and it obviously would be very useful for Boeing, would be useful for DGCA, and would be helpful to Air India. Now with these new developments, this safety notice which was given by the UK Civil Aviation Authority, the question emerges, did the DGCA do anything like this? And if the DGCA did not, why did they not do that? How does this controversy look now? Can you blame the pilot anymore?
Hi, good evening, Arnab. First of all, I would say it's a bizarre. Such a high-profile investigation, air crash, and such an air crash has happened. And where we are with I would take this report as a one-sided, flimsy, biased, because, it's my own, again, personal opinion, it's a direct result of not having not having an experienced pilot on board or in the AIB board. Where is the pilot, any 787 Dreamliner experienced pilot who can tell what exactly is happening inside the cockpit? At the time of takeoff, what exactly could have happened? And as a result, what we find, it's indirect blame to the pilots, the dead pilots who are they will not come back to defend themselves. And a one-liner of CVR with everybody knows the cockpit voice recorder has got 2 channels. They monitor the recording separately. It is very easy for the AIB to say which pilot said what. And secondly, and the main thing is that they have just said fuel cutoff switch transition, leaving it to the speculation. Yes, that this transition means the physical movement. No, I don't think so. And it's inhuman. It's humanly, it's not possible that you can, in 1 second you can switch off both the switches. And, Captain Anant will agree with me. We've been flying this aircraft for so many years. These kinds of switches, it takes 3 to 4 seconds to switch off these, these switches. Where in Airbus 320 with start-stop, and in the 787 we have got a fuel cutoff run and cutoff switch. It's both the same thing, spring-loaded. You have to physically lift it from the detent, then have to move forward and back to put it back into the detent. It cannot inadvertently. Now, as far as the locking mechanism is concerned, it's a by part number, and it was issued 2018. Yes, Air India did not carry out, maybe for the reason best known to them. But yes, it is, as per the SAIB, yes, if this part number, which was actually confirmed by AIB that it was fitted in the 787, but it was advisory, so didn't do it. But another thing, Air India came up, I don't know how much truth is that, 2023, they changed the complete throttle quadrant. That means that includes fuel switches as well. So they will be able to tell more. But yes, what I see from this report is totally one-sided. Yes, indirectly giving.
No, but why is it that my question is, Anant Mathur, Group Captain Anant Mathur, the British Aviation Authority regulator is very, very clear and process-driven. Basically, their notice comes on the 15th of May 2025. And their notice says that, see, there are problems with the 787 also on the fuel shutoff valve actuators, which require replacement, test or inspection. And there is a protocol on how this is to be done and who is to do it. Now, this happens 28 days before. Would the DGCA not know that serious reminder action is being taken by the British Aviation Authority, and therefore they also need to wake up? They need to wake up and also act, because obviously the British Aviation Authority is not acting without a reason. They know that there is a problem, that it should compromise the lives of people, and hence they are putting out a very, very stringent advisory. And that advisory, they say, will remain in force till further notice, which means it's on even now. What were our own aviation authorities doing, which is reporting directly to the Civil Aviation Minister?
Yeah, I agree with you, Arnab. This action by DGCA is delayed. Although I would also say that the advisory itself is very cleverly worded, wherein they say that it has come to the notice that several operators, internationally as well as domestic, have initiated this inspection on the aircraft as per the 2018 advisory. So they are not saying that we feel something is wrong, but since everybody else is doing it, you also please go ahead and do it. It could point to 2 things. One, that DGCA feels that this activity is perfunctory and is not the real cause of the accident, but as a sign of abundant caution, just wants the airline to go through this.
No, sir, this letter that you're referring to is issued at 5:30 p.m. on 14th of July, that is today. So we sent them a mail exposing them at 12:30. Till 12:30 this afternoon, DGCA thought हमने handle कर लिया है. There has been a press conference of AIB, there's been a press release, everything is fine. They woke up only when we exposed them. So the fact what they are saying, it has come to our notice that several global operators are carrying out in detail inspection. Would they not have known of this on the 15th of May? Before the crash, they did not take any action. They don't want to admit this is the reason for the crash, but they cannot deny anymore this could be one of the reasons for the crash and not pilot error.
Exactly. That is what I am saying. So if you look cleverly, how cleverly they have worded it, they are hinting that it could not be the pilot error. There could be much more complex reasons why this incident has happened. But as a sign of abundant caution, they want to issue this because everybody is doing it. But they are still investigating why this has happened. And they are looking at more complex reasons. In fact, you would be surprised. Today, Ms. Mary Xiao, who was the Inspector General of US Department of Transportation, has also indicated that thrust control malfunction accommodation as one of the probable reasons for this crash. And she also feels that there could be very complex reasons behind this crash and not simply brushing it off as a pilot error. In fact, Arnab, I would like to tell you that in this incident with All Nippon aircraft, which happened in January 2019, and in March, that was on the ground and all passengers were safe when both the engines flamed out on the ground. And in March 2019, we have had two Boeing MAX 8 crashes, one by one, which led to complete hull loss and loss of lives. That incident overshadowed everything else. So it is quite possible that this aspect of Boeing 787 dual engine failure was not examined with the severity that it required, probably because there were no lives lost. Now when lives have been lost, suddenly everybody is waking up and realizing that there could be something really
But
wrong.
I think the
with
Civil Aviation Minister should issue a statement on this now. This has gone on too much. Sanjay Lazar is with us right now. Sanjay, Captain C.S. Randhawa is with us. He's President of the Federation of Indian Pilots. Captain Randhawa, good evening. I have with me, suddenly we sent the email to the DGCA saying that the UK Civil Aviation Authority had put out a fresh warning on the 15th of May 2025 regarding the fuel shutoff valve and recommended mandatory actions on the Boeing aircraft. And why did you not do it? Why were you not aware? This happened 28 days before the AI-171 crash. At 5:30 p.m., 5 hours after receiving an email, they are saying that they are issuing compliance for the engine fuel and control for all affected aircraft registered in India. They did not do this for 8 years. But indirectly over the weekend, the whole system got together to blame the pilots. And the narrative that the pilot is to blame was put all over the world, including it was leaked in that way before the official release of the report in newspapers in America and the United Kingdom. Now this fresh fact comes out that there was a problem with, I don't know, you are the pipe, but with the fuel shutoff valve actuator on the B787. And there's a recommended procedure on managing it on a daily basis, which was not recommended by DGCA. How do you view these developments, sir? What does it tell you about the theories being put around the crash?
Arnab, you're asking me
Yes, sir.
question?
Yes, sir, to you.
Okay. First and foremost thing, as my friend just mentioned, that throughout the investigation and since last so many days, no one has brought up this engine failure on the NI aircraft NH985, which happened in Osaka on 17th of January of 2019. When the aircraft landed, both the thrust levers they were brought back and the thrust reversers were taken. The aircraft did not indicate that it had gone to ground mode, and it had shut down both the engines without the pilot's intervention to move the fuel control switches. So this is now taking shape that there could be a electronic malfunction from the TCMA going the electric supply into the EEC, which goes to FedEx and which controls the fuel valves. Now the valves are picked up, their positions are picked up by the DFDR, which is the black box. So what I'm saying that it is premature for any panelist or anyone in the world to start blaming the pilots, and without any concrete evidence of any nature. The report should have been more elaborate on what has transpired even in the cockpit through the cockpit voice recorder decoding. That is also not proper. It has to be word by word. Who said whom? Because the controls were with the first officer, who's Captain Clive, and the pilot monitoring was Captain Sabharwal. They were highly experienced pilots, and I have myself have trained Captain Sabharwal. There is no inclination of suicide and all, which one of our colleagues in India brought up, that it could be a suicide. That is absolutely absurd. And such people should be punished to make a statement which is baseless, not based on anything. And this could create a fear psychosis around the world among the passengers. So it is not advisable at all that such statements are made without any such basis. There are procedures in the pilot's training. We teach the pilots over and over again that what actions they're supposed to take. And these, I again reiterate that there are two mandatory actions which the report has not brought out. The first mandatory action in case of twin engine flame out is fuel control switches are to cut off and run. Now, in the report, they say within 1 second it has happened. You ask any engineer or the manufacturer, can this be done in 1 second? Answer is no. The second point is that the Boeing says you have the RAM air switch has to be put on to ensure that the RAM is definitely deployed. They have not talked about the RAM air switch being on. The RAM has deployed. Both engines flamed out, RAD deployed, no mention of the RAD switch, no mention clearly that the CVR is very clear. The pilots are saying no one has switched off. So maybe there is an electric disruption of power, because the live survivor, his statement is not at all being considered. He has said after takeoff, after some time, he saw the lights flickering in the cabin. Now lights are off. Why will they flicker? If there may be a power interruption. So his evidence also should be taken into cognizance while the investigations are going on. And the investigation needs to be more elaborate, because I find this report is not very elaborate.
No, sir, but our expose shows that the British were aware, and the FAA report was quoted by the British, so the DGCA was aware, but possibly DGCA felt it was not important. I think the DGCA should be sacked. I think the Civil Aviation Minister should take action or resign himself. This is too big. What does the report prove in simple terms? DGCA knew about possible flaws in fuel shutoff valve but did not act. Is there a headline on it? Republic proves DGCA knew about fuel shutoff valve problem but did not act, thereby compromising the lives of passengers. Harsha has broken this story. She's fantastic civil aviation reporter of Republic. Krutat has a new angle on this. I'm going to come to Krutat. But Harsha, to you first. You know, this report is creating ripples, but it seems so well managed over the weekend. You know, first leak the story globally, then put out a report here, then welcome the report, let the politicians welcome the report by Sunday. Then by Monday, Air India CEO gives a statement saying everything is okay, there's no problem with the plane. Boeing gets a clean chit, Air India gets a clean chit, DGCA gets a clean chit. Everybody is happy. Passengers' lives are forgotten. What are the response to your report? What are the responses that you're getting now that you put this report out?
Arnab, 2 hours. 2 hours I was there at DGCA office. I just came out. It's heavily raining, and I was just asking them continuously for 2 hours that Republic has sent out a mail to you. Please respond to us. If not on mail, at least through the sources on camera. I spoke to DG Fairs Ahmed Siddiqui personally to respond on it, but there was no response. They were completely tight-lipped. They made me wait for 2 hours by again and again telling that investigation is underway. They will respond only when the final report comes out. And they kept on saying that we knew about 2018 and 2020 FAA. They were aware about 2018 and 2020 FAA and SAIB. The airworthiness report, the airworthiness bulletin, they were aware of, but they didn't do anything because they clearly stated it was the operators who had to take action or do the maintenance.
No, they're passing the buck. What are they saying? Can they say that they were doing what they were supposed to do, Harsha? Did the DGCA ask Air India and other Indian airlines to do what the British Civil Aviation Authority was asking them to do? Daily checks through a mandated procedure.
It was today. It was today after our questionnaire was sent to them at 12:30, that at 5:30 p.m. in the evening, they sent out a notice to the engineering department, which is the directorate of.
Okay, I'm losing Harsha there. But this is bizarre. I'm getting people on the phone line, people calling all over. People are very angry. Captain Bhatnagar, people are very angry. Viewers are very angry today. They're saying, you see how quickly they managed the whole thing. DGCA, Air India, Boeing all getting a clean sheet over the weekend. Dead pilot blamed. Conspiracy theory, was he suicidal? Did he have a psychological problem? All these things are going out. You know, now people are angry tonight, Captain Bhatnagar. Very angry.
Absolutely, they have to be. It is all one-sided. In the direction this preliminary investigative report has been steered by the AIB is totally surprising. With so many things, what Captain Andhawa also said, CVR, the first thing is that if you are saying online, a paraphrasing, not even giving the direct raw data of the CVR, where is that? Why you are not giving? Why you not ruling out the malfunction of the electrical signals? Why you not ruling out? Why you not ruling out? And what is the hurry to give clean chit to Boeing and to GE that no recommendation at this point of investigation? We do not recommend anything for the Boeing. Why? What was the need? It is still ongoing investigation, and so many flaws have already come out in this by the complete pilot body. They have already rejected everything. Naturally, there is no talk about what happened when the RAT was deployed, at what time. Does the RAT deploy immediately of this thing, or after, when the fuel switch off thing was or fuel control switch was in the transition position? What happened in this 4 seconds? Where was the pilot looking? Where the pilot must be looking ahead to wait for the positive rate climb.
Okay, we have another point on the timing, and I want to get Kruthat to mention this here. Viewers, basically, and Kruthat will explain to you, apparently, as per the AIB report, when the switch off of the fuel happened, it happened in 1/10 of a second. When it was brought back in about 4 or 5 seconds, which means possibly it was not a pilot who was switching it off. Kruthat, can you put the facts out on this?
Indeed, sir. And the facts of the AIB report here, and I'm quoting directly from the report, is that immediately after 8 hours, 8 minutes and 42 seconds, that's the exact time that the EAFR, that is the Enhanced Airborne Flight Recorder, has recorded. On the 42nd second, both the engines, engine 1 and engine 2 fuel cutoff switches transitioned from run to cutoff positions, one after the other, at the time gap of 0.1 seconds. These are the words of the AAIB. Now, what is interesting is when the engine recovery starts, and all the pilots here can weigh on it, is when the engine recovery starts, the first engine transition from cutoff to run position happens 10 seconds after it transitioned to cutoff. Meaning that at least it took the pilots 10 seconds initially to react to the situation on what happened. And after from cutoff position, the first engine switch was brought up after 10 seconds. And subsequently after that, it took 4 more seconds. At 8:56, 52 was the first one, 52nd second, 56th second is when the second switch was brought up. So if it took the pilots 4 seconds to react and bring both the switches up, one after the other, how can it take only 0.1 seconds?
I want to get a response on this. Can you explain this, Group Captain Anand Mathur? If it took
happens in the cockpit, right?
Yeah.
It takes several pilots across the board have said that it will take at least 4 to 5 seconds for me to either switch off the engine masters from run to shut off or move it back from cut off to run position. Because it is a deliberate act by the pilot. It is a deliberate 3-step process. Because
so that would take 4 to 5 seconds. But then how did the switch off happen in 0.1 seconds?
It is virtually humanly impossible to switch off both the switches in 0.1 seconds.
Can any pilot in the whole world switch off both engines within 0.1 seconds is the question the nation wants to know, Captain Randhawa.
Absolutely, I agree with the group captain that no way the switches, I have flown the 777 and I have got converted even on the Boeing 787. No way these switches, because as I said, these have a lock and within 0.1 seconds or 1 second also, you cannot recycle the switches. And second point, when a dual engine failure occurs, the fuel control switches are brought to cut off. It will take both the switches. What we do is we put off one engine and we put that on to run.
Which means it can't be pilot error, sir. It can't be pilot error. What was going on over the weekend? Why was Air India, DGCA, all these people giving...
It is not a pilot error.
Arnab, actually, if you remove that statement on Boeing and GE from the preliminary report, there is no requirement for that complete sentence in the preliminary report. It adds nothing to that except give a clean chit to the aircraft manufacturer and the engine manufacturer, so that Boeing 787 all over the world is not grounded.
That is my point. It is all aimed at, you're saying it's all aimed at saving Boeing. And in the process of saving Boeing, DGCA is saved, Air India is saved. Sharad is calling from Bengaluru. Call us tonight. Sharad, what do you think?
Hello.
Hi, Sharad. What do you think of this new report?
Hi, Arnab. Thanks for allowing people, common people like us to come and speak on your show.
Thank you.
First of all, I must thank that you are taking up this cause, because as commoners, we can't really go and charge DGCA or I think lethargic, civil aviation ministry. So my point is, I am not a technical person, but I can say from even common sense, a person who really follows aviation, that we have to put DGCA on the spot and ask them the right and tough questions. My request will be that you please continue doing it till there is a...
We'll do that, Sharad. You can be sure, Republic. We're not going to let them go.
Yeah,
we're not going to let them go. Vijay is calling from Ahmedabad. Hi, Vijay.
Good evening, Arnab. I'm a big fan of you.
Thank you, sir.
And it is a great opportunity to speak to you. I myself is an aeronautical engineer. And I will definitely say this, that DGCA report which has come, it is, 8th class student his project report will be much better than this DGCA report. They have done one part of the investigation and left. The simple fact, one of the paragraphs they mentioned, one of the pilots said to another pilot, Captain Nanda will be much more aware of that. It will be clearly recorded who is the first pilot or the captain of the aircraft. They have not even mentioned that. It is such a huge embarrassment. And I wanted to say one more thing, Arnab. Why the independent agency was not taking up the case of investigating this? Where is the National Transportation Safety Board? I just wanted to ask Captain Nandava, sir, is there any...
Conflict of interest, sir. Conflict of interest, Vijay. I don't know how the Ministry of Civil Aviation can be doing the investigation, whereas the faults are of the DGCA, which also reports to the Ministry of Civil Aviation. It's complete conflict of interest.
Foreign National Transportation Safety Board is one of the key premier institutions which they investigate all these things. Why they were not involved? What was so hurry-burry in coming up with the bizarre report and throwing it on the public, saying that believe what we are saying, that it is the final and it is an interim report, and they have done some kind of photography, some kind of this one. Our thesis, a 10th class project will be much better than this.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Captain Bhatnagar, you want to respond to that?
Regarding the, all these cockpit voice recorder, everybody has been saying now, it has been already established that, the CVR, both the captain as well as the first officer, left seat and right seat, the channels are different, recordings are different. You can easily make out who is saying what. Secondly, the other thing is, even if the switches are physically moved, the sound of the switches is recorded in CVR, and whenever this thing happens, fuel switch off, the warning will come up in the cockpit. They will get recorded.
This is all happening because dead pilots can't answer, sir.
But why there is no pilot in the investigation board? You are not involved.
I don't know what kind of investigation they are doing.
Amazing.
I mean, they can get some journalists to do an investigation if that's what they want. We do a better job. Arup is calling in from New Delhi. Arup. Hi, Arup.
Yeah, Arnab, good evening to you.
Good evening, sir.
My question is very simple. Why DGCA and Boeing should not be blamed for this ignoring such important advisories of past issues and responsible for the death of these 270 people? Why not be charged with a culpable homicide?
I don't know, sir. I think the government should act against... The government should act. I really believe the government has to immediately take action on this DGCA. Otherwise, it's ridiculous, sir. It's absolutely ridiculous, sir. I can only tell you, sir, this is making people very, very angry. I'll take a short break. That's a great investigative story by the Republic Media Network. And viewers, many of you are asking why the other networks aren't doing such investigative stories. We'll ask them. Ask them or ask Boeing maybe. Maybe Boeing can answer on their behalf. Lapses after lapses, no accountability. But the international media did not waste a minute to question the pilots of AI 171. Who leaked the report to them? That and much more when I'm back.
Time for a quick breather. Arnab will be right back with the debate.
ये है सीक्रेट रेसिपी MDH का जीरा सिप जल जीरा मसाला सिप सिप जीरा सिप MDH का जल जीरा सिप MDH का जल जीरा सिप